You said that, back in high school, you just didn't even know if you were going to be alive or make it past, a certain birthday, let alone to now become this incredible influence on people.
I deal with a lot of chronic fatigue, chronic pain. Being able to speak to the younger version of me and help her get her voice heard. This is exactly what I wanted to do and to make, and what I set out to achieve with my YouTube channel.
When was the moment you realized you've made it?
When I meet someone and they go, "Oh my God, my cousin is obsessed with you. You've really helped her feel so much better about things she's recently been diagnosed with."
Were you filming it knowing that at some point, there's a light at the end of the tunnel and you'll be able to share your story?
It's probably going to sound very weird, but as a teenager, I got really, really ill, and I kind of didn't really think that I was going to get to be an adult at all.
Jessica Kellgren-Fozard is a British YouTuber and television personality. She's known for her videos on disability awareness, LGBT history, and vintage fashion. She began making YouTube videos in 2011 and has since gained over 1 million YouTube subscribers.
What I think is so incredible about you and your channel is that it's been so successful with various different niches and topics. But the theme throughout is you giving a voice and understanding for people who don't feel like they're being heard.
I think the aspect of just wanting to be understood is very universal.
Was that your plan, to kind of be a voice for the unheard, for the disabled, for LGBTQ plus?
Oh gosh,
Well, hello, Jessica. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. We have so many things to dive into. But before we do that, I want to show a little behind the scenes to everybody here about what we're doing and how we're facilitating this interview. So we have Jessica's sign language interpreter, Ruth Ann, here throughout the entire interview. And she's just going to be here signing what I'm saying to Jessica. And so there might be a little bit of a delay. So Jessica, first question. When was a moment that you realized that your voice and your content could bridge the gap between visibility and understanding for both the LGBTQ plus and disabled communities?
I'd say that the first time that I realized my content could really help people understand chronic illness, hidden disabilities, basically say all of the things that I wanted it to say, to represent those people who were dealing with the same thing that I was, but also be understandable to the people who had never come across these things before, was when I had a video that went viral in 2018, so way back when. And I think it was 2018. Don't quote me on that. And it was called "Why I Don't Sound Deaf," and was about the different sort of types of deafness, as it were. So how, when we're often presented with one idea of disability or deafness or who a person is, and these kind of stereotypes that are put out there in media, and it's this is what it is, that's just that, there's just this one type of person, and that can be so difficult for everyone who deals with the same issues but doesn't necessarily present in the same way. And that video did very well, and some of the comments that came in, it was really wonderful for me, because I dealt with the same things growing up, having an invisible disability, having to constantly tell people yes, I know I don't look disabled. Yeah, I know. It's really funny, isn't it? Yeah. People seem to think it's really interesting. But still having to deal with the ableism that comes from that, still having to deal with the difficulties around that, the kind of, no, this just isn't accessible for me. I can't actually use this cinema. I can't go in and just apply for this job because it requires I make a phone call. Actually, today I can't use my legs very well and I'm in my wheelchair, but I can't get into this building where I'm having lunch with my friends. Oh, this isn't great. But then on other days, I'm walking. And so people have a difficulty seeing and understanding that. And the comments on this video were very much like, yes, this is me. This is my experience. Thank you so much for being able to share this. And I'm able to now share this video with my friends and with my parents, and they watched it and they understood more what it is that I'm dealing with. And then there were comments that were like, wow, I just never thought about this. I have no idea why YouTube recommended this to me. No idea why I clicked on this, but I've watched it and now I've learned something, and that's great. And so for me, that video was really like, yeah, wonderful. This is exactly what I wanted to do and to make, and what I set out to achieve with my YouTube channel. Being able to speak to the like younger version of me and help her get her voice heard.
Yeah, I love that. What was your plan with your YouTube channel? Like, what got you onto creating content and getting onto YouTube?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I ever had a plan. I don't know that I have a plan now. Maybe I should have a plan. Yeah, you can help me with that if you like. No,
I think it's working pretty well, actually.
So I've always wanted to work in television. I sort of wanted to work more behind the scenes in producing, writing, those kinds of areas. My parents are in media, but behind the scenes again, so it was something that I was sort of like, oh yeah, this is really fascinating. Oh, this is really interesting. Yeah, I really love seeing something come to life and make the ideas and stories that are in my head into something that other people can enjoy and get a lot out of. And so I did a university degree, which was based around media, and then I started working for a local TV company, but it was so difficult. It was really hard to make work with my body. So I have to explain my disabilities. I feel like I should probably start with that. I have two inherited disabilities, one of which affects my nerves and one of which affects my connective tissue and sort of the bits that hold me together. So I don't stay together very well. Probably a good way to describe it. And also my nerves don't work super well. And these are kind of two key elements for your body, kind of need those. So I deal with a lot of chronic fatigue, chronic pain, there's like bits of me that don't work very well. When I was a teenager, I managed to paralyze my arms for a year and a half, which took a lot of, sort of physio and stuff to get back. And this is something that happens with my condition, is that I can paralyze parts of myself, particularly if I've had an injury. So I have to be quite careful. And then, so now my hands don't work particularly well, meaning I can't sort of feel heat and cold, and I can't do very precise things with them. So I was doing this job for this local TV company, and really I just found that I was doing everything it takes to make a TV package. You're coming up with the idea, producing it, writing it, filming it, presenting it, editing it, putting it together, doing the package, and you're like, hey, go, okay, now I've got to also publicize it. Gosh, right. And you're just doing everything, but then I wasn't getting the pay that I needed. Working a lot of hours to someone else's schedules and deadlines, and it was not going well for me. And my wife, my lovely wife, said, well, when we get married, you know what, I'm going to support you for 6 months. And why don't you do what you're doing now and just put everything you make on YouTube?
Oh, I
because
like that.
you're doing the same thing anyway. You're coming up with ideas,
Mm-hmm.
you're creating content, you are filming it, editing it, presenting it, promoting it. Just put it on YouTube, and whatever happens, you'll be the one that gets any positives and negatives, but it will be, in your name now. And I was like, yeah, actually, yeah, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it. So it was actually my wife who first.
So YouTube was your wife's idea and encouragement.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is really cool. And so, with YouTube, you have to think about what is it that you're going to talk about? What's going to be your topic? Was that your plan to kind of be a voice for the unheard, for the disabled, for LGBTQ plus, or you have, your vintage fashion, how do all three of those kind of tie in together that it's like it created, I don't know if anyone could ever plan that. It's like it created this really beautiful community and content for three seemingly different niches, but it just seems to all come together really nicely.
Yeah. So I kind of, to start with, tried different things.
Mm-hmm.
I think to start with, you're always like trying to find your niche, find out what it is that works for you. And it's a kind of balance between thinking, what do I as a person enjoy watching, and what do I as a person enjoy creating? Because they're not necessarily the same thing. And you can really love watching a certain type of content. Like, say you were the person who loves watching fashion videos, and you're like, yep, I want to make those videos. I want to make the video where a girl tries on 100 different jeans in one video. Perfect, that's for me. But then you actually try to make that video and you're like, oh dear Lord, no, this is not. Oof, this is not it. This is not it for me. I cannot try on another pair of jeans. I've done 20 now. I'm dying. My legs are chafing. Like, it's just not. That's not your thing. You don't enjoy it. So for me, like, I tried, maybe we'll do some vintage makeup. Maybe we'll do some vintage fashion. And interestingly, I found that going down that route wasn't enjoyable for me to create.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't something I personally loved doing. Like, I can occasionally make a video about vintage style, because if I do it occasionally, it's joyful. But if I do it all the time, it loses. I just lose the love.
Yeah.
And yet, this is how I dress all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason as well, is that if it's someone's kind of work uniform that they put on, and they're like, I just have this vintage fashion channel and I wear vintage for this channel, it's slightly easier because then you take it off.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm very much like,
This is who
no,
you are.
it's me on the playground, the big skirts and everything. And then we just deal with that. There we go. So for me, I found that creating sort of the sit down videos where much kind of like talk to the camera, let's explain a thing, let's talk about wider topics, but using my personal experience of related things, was an easier way for me to connect to my audience and an easier thing for me to make.
Yeah. And so when you decided, with the encouragement of your wife, to take that 6-month leap, it sounds like she said, okay, let's try this for 6 months. I fully support you. What type of fears, if any, did you have to overcome?
I don't know. So it's probably going to sound very weird, but as a teenager, I got really, really ill as a teenager, and I kind of didn't really think that I was going to get to be an adult at all. And then and then it was like, am I going to be the type of adult who can have a job? So am I going to be the type of adult who can meet someone who wants to marry me? I guess I had very low expectations of my own life. So therefore I didn't have any fears. I guess that's a bit startling looking back. Now I'm like,
Um,
yeah, I own a business, I have a mortgage, employ people, have a child I send to school, employ my wife. Yeah. Now I have fears. Now I have
yeah.
fears. But back then I was like, no, I'm alive. It's great. It's going
Wow.
well.
Wow.
Yeah, so absolutely no fears there. Probably a good way to start something.
It's 100% a good way to start something, because what I found is that the biggest thing that stops people and even stops them from being authentic and stops them from being themselves is those fears. They have so many fears about who they are and being in front of the camera and the feedback that they're going to get. And that is such a fascinating, answer to me. And it's a way to live life in some ways, right? But it's interesting you say now, but now I have fears because I'm in a beautiful life and I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah. Very true. I think because now our life depends on me
Mm-hmm.
a lot more than it did. So back then it was very much like more dependent on my wife, who like she was a dentist at the time.
Oh.
So she had a job that was like, a traditional
Mm-hmm.
stable job.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was just like, I'm just her wife and I can have a go at this and see what happens. And if it goes well, it goes well. And if it doesn't, I'll just find something else to do. Okay. Whereas now it's much more like, okay, this business is what we do. This is our family business now.
Mm-hmm.
And we've built things around it, and like we employ our friends.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to mess up people's Christmases. Okay, I've got to work extra hard.
So there's more pressure. There's a lot more pressure.
Yes, definitely a lot more pressure now.
And how do you handle that pressure given your situations, your health problems?
I mean, always a good question. I think for me, my body tends to force me to take rests. Like I have chronic migraines just as part of this thing. So it's just like every month when the moon comes back around, I'm like, oh good, 2 days in bed.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Let's just turn all the lights off, shut all the curtains. She's down. Good. Handy. So that's always peppy. And then I have to be very careful to, I feel like now I am much more careful with my body than I was back then, even though I was iller back then, although I was probably iller back then because I was less careful with my body. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now I take so many different vitamins. And I'm very much like, okay, I must make sure that I have got all my fluids. I never skip a meal. I need to get in all of my sleep. I need to, don't walk too far. Don't overexert yourself. Be really clear with people that you cannot stand for this much time. Be very honest with people about what you can and cannot do. Is this deadline too short? Tell them it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that confidence comes with experience from the trying to do things, trying to rush to push things out, being like, oh my God, this is the end of the world if this doesn't go out, if this video misses its deadline, and then finding it's actually not the end of the world. But I think it also comes with just being older and being listened to more in a way that I never was when I was a teenage girl and a young woman. And I went to the doctor and said, this is a problem. Something's happening to my body. Please help. And they were like, yeah, but you're a teenager. So, it's hormonal. And I'm like, it's really not. And now I am in my 30s and I'm married and I have a child and I go to the GP and I tell them something and they go, yes, of course. Let me just write your prescription. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Great.
You're like, this is real.
Yes, life is great. It's wonderful being an adult, finally.
Yeah. Yeah. And does your wife still work as a dentist?
No. So she gave up being a dentist. She was delighted to stop being a dentist. She worked up until she got pregnant with our son.
Okay.
So he's 3.5 now, so 4 years ago.
Okay.
And then she came to work for me full time because she was working for me part time before.
Okay. Yeah. So what role does she have in the business with you?
So she is the business mind.
Okay.
Absolutely. She's the behind the scenes great. I don't know anything about invoices. Don't come for me. I don't know. I've not made an invoice in the last 4 years. She is the person who does all of that. She does the tax emails. My gosh, I don't even know what those numbers are. When they're like, yes, we need your blah 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 blah, blah number, and I'm like, wife, where are you? What is this? What on earth are they requesting now? Help me!
You're like, forward the email.
I mean, she's currently working. Her current project is making a whole new website. I've got a whole new merch line. So she's been doing all that, all of the sourcing, all of the setting things up in the back end, linking it all together with YouTube and making it shoppable. So you can click on Instagram and go straight to the product, all of that stuff. And then she also appears on camera occasionally, and we do things together. So she is both behind the camera and in front of the camera. And of course, she is an incredible wife and mother. And I absolutely could not do what I do without her, like, holding our family together.
Yeah, especially with a child now.
Yes. The
So
number of hours that I work.
Oh yeah. When was the moment that you realized that you've made it as a content creator, or that you've made like this decision, this jumping into YouTube and content creation is the best decision for you?
It's a good question. I think for me that it's never like a big, oh wow, I've made it type of moment, because the things for me personally that I would qualify as success aren't necessarily like, oh, won an award, got to stand on a stage and be presented with an award, or like, oh, I'm in a room and YouTube's like, everyone in this room is the top 200 creators in the UK, and I'm like, okay, cool. For me, what I qualify as success is when I meet someone and they go, oh my god, my cousin is obsessed with you. Like, you've really helped her feel so much better about things she's recently been diagnosed with. Or they're like, my goodness, my little brother watches all of your content religiously. He sends your videos to the whole family so that we can become more aware of how best to practice using pronouns. Thank you. It's really helped us. I'm like, thanks, oh my gosh, thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
That's the stuff to me that really feels great. Or when we're just out and about at a family. Gosh, we went to, have you ever heard of Efteling? It's a theme park in the Netherlands.
No.
And we went there this summer, and I'm not sure why this was like a hotspot for people who watch my channel, but every 20 minutes someone came up and was like, hi, Jessica. And I'm like, hello, what's going on with this theme park? This is a theme park for people who watch me, apparently. And they're all like really lovely and so sweet. And that's that kind of one-to-one connection is the thing that for me feels like success. Someone saying like that really spoke to me, that touched me, that video that you intended to have this effect, like it worked, and I felt great watching it. Thank you, making me feel heard. Yes.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that. What is the most unexpected way that you've impacted people with your content?
Unexpected way, I suppose, would either be people watching like with their parents. I love those comments when someone's like, I'm watching this with my mum. I'm like, oh, cool. Hi. Or when someone says, I played this video in the classroom for my students. I'm like, is that allowed?
Oh,
You're
wow.
allowed to play YouTube videos in the classroom? But I mean, that's
yeah,
great.
They do.
Brilliant. Love it. Love to glad you're playing this educational video about whatever it is, rather than something else. Good. I guess those are the kind of unexpected ways.
Yeah. What aspects of your content, because you cover so many different topics, while they are thematic, there's very specific themes you cover, but are there certain ones that you feel really resonate with people? That when you put a video on this topic, you're like, okay, you're going to get a lot of the comments.
I think the type of content for me that I put out, and I know that the majority of my audience are going to connect to it or relate to it, tends to be about not being heard. So that it can kind of cover a lot of different bases, like a lot of different things, whether you've grown up knowing that you have something medically wrong with you and you've tried to tell people and they just haven't listened and you haven't been heard, and you're therefore watching this video and you're like, yes, exactly, this was my experience of not being heard. I'm so glad other people also had the experience of not being heard, but now are able to reclaim that and are able to get their voices out there. Like, that's great, that's empowering. Or whether you're somebody who was like, I always knew this identity marker about myself and I tried to tell people, or I kept it hidden because I didn't think they'd understand, and I've really struggled with this, and now finally I know that I can be heard. This is wonderful. This is so great. I'm so pleased that there's a community out here as well. Because I think the aspect of just wanting to be understood is very universal.
Very much so. I think that's probably one of the kind of through lines between all of your content, because sometimes people might look at, and I think this is a conflict that creators can have sometimes, where they have various interests or various parts of themselves. And what I think is so incredible about you and your channel is that it's been so successful with various different niches and topics, but the through line, or maybe the mission, or the theme throughout, is you giving a voice and understanding or advocacy for the unheard, or people who don't feel like they're being heard. How did that feel for you to experience that?
I really liked you phrasing that actually as a mission, because that's definitely how I feel. I would say, like, yes, this is my mission, to help people feel heard. And I think even as I've introduced new topics, so becoming a parent was obviously a new thing for my channel, talking about being a parent, talking about as he was a baby and then he's a toddler and now he's a preschooler, and going through that. That's obviously a new area to talk about, but we still handled it in very much the same way. And we Montessori him. We do Montessori parenting. He goes to a Montessori school, and the element of Montessori that for me is so important is the respecting of the child, making sure they feel heard, making sure they're an equal part of things, that giving them that respect and the dignity. And I think that's why that then relates on my channel when I talk about it. Even the people, I love this ones who are like, I do not have children and I never intend to have children. I watched this whole video. And it's like, great, good. Yes. Because they're responding to that element of, yes, we should be respecting children. We should be really listening to them. Yes. We should be making sure they feel heard from the very beginning.
Wow. I love that. I love your mission, and it's come together so beautifully. And that is one of the powers of YouTube, is for you, somebody who literally you're not a celebrity. You're not some superstar. You were just somebody who had a voice and a mission, and interest. And you literally were able to get onto YouTube and impact so many people. It just seems incredible, right? And this is part of the reason for me this is why I do what I do, right? This is why I love to champion women creators, and I love YouTube, because in some ways YouTube is giving a voice to people that might not otherwise have had this opportunity, and like someone like you, that in a traditional working sense, it would be very difficult for you to go out in the world and really try and, get on talk shows or do whatever because of your own disabilities, right? But, your wife, you're very lucky, I have to say. She knew. How long ago is this? I mean, that's having a lot of foresight to say, hey, Jessica, get onto YouTube. I will support you. You do it. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
She's like, oh my gosh, you talk so much. Could you maybe use this for something? Go and talk to some other people for a while, even if it's just a camera. It'd be great. Thank you. I can do that.
Yeah. I love that.
So it worked out very well.
Yes. What has been the biggest sacrifice that you've made in pursuit of your platform and the content?
Having moments I can switch off. For sure. I used to be so jealous, I think, of when Claudia was a dentist and could leave her job. She'd be like, I have finished work. Now I leave the premises. I'm done for the weekend. I was like, oh, what? I wish. That sounds great. Because even if I'm not technically working, even if I'm not sat in front of a camera, even if I'm not sat at my computer and I'm not, actively at that moment doing something work related, I can't stop that bit in my mind that's like, oh, I'll make a good video. Oh, I should probably post about that. Oh, wouldn't it be da-da-da? Have I made sure I've got everything I need for that video? Have I made sure da-da-da? Have I da-da-da? Have I? Because there are so many different hats that you have to wear as a creator. You're constantly doing everything. It's not that kind of thing where you're just a presenter and you turn up and you sit in front of the camera and you read off the auto cue and you're like, yeah, this is great. And then you go, because you're the one who does the research and has to look up the topics and has to put that together and then make sure that this is something that people are going to be interested in. Do you have all of the props that you might need for this video? Do you have all of the editing stuff? Have you sent this little clip over to the external editor who's going to need it immediately this next second? Oh no. A lot of different hats, and also it's not a job that ever switches off. Yeah. So it's something that you have to very actively make the decision to be like, I am having a week off. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. and have to kind of like put your stuff away. We have, so my wife is half Malaysian, and we visit her family in Malaysia, and it is the best time for me to actually be able to be like, I just can't. I'm afraid I just can't do anything. I just can't. I'm so sorry. I've absolutely got no service.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no Wi-Fi. I just can't do anything. Oh no.
Yeah.
Because normally, just any news alert, anything I see on Twitter, Reddit, anything, I'm like, that could be a video. Better save that. Oh my goodness. Have we? Oh, I might schedule that in. Should move these videos around. Oh gosh. But if I can't do it, I can't do it. Oh dear.
Yeah. It's a forced unplug. It forces you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you, beyond going to Malaysia and going on a trip, how do you balance that in your everyday life now that you have a child? You know, that adds a whole nother layer of having to set those boundaries or saying, okay, it's one thing, it's just, you know, me and my wife and we're working or whatever, but now you have a baby. And how do you set those boundaries between turning off or turning on?
Yeah, so beyond just going to the other side of the world, which, you know, it's a great way.
I think it's not a bad idea, actually. I think maybe everyone should try it every now and then. I think they actually have like actual programs and retreats, maybe not in Malaysia, but like forced unplugging of here, there's no service. You're going in the middle of the woods with nothing else and get off your phone. And people say it's actually one of the best experiences, especially in this modern day and age.
It definitely, yeah, definitely. I mean, I tried doing the thing where you have a work phone and a life phone, but it doesn't work because if I see something on my life phone, but I'm like, this could be a video. I should add that to my latest video. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Got to add it in. Also, I read Wikipedia for fun, which is a very odd thing to do for fun. But when it comes to Rupert and unplugging, we've always been quite firm in our parenting philosophy that screens and technology are work related. So for him, if he sees, you know, phones and laptops and those kinds of things, it's work, and he's like, oh, okay. It's kind of not very interesting to him. He doesn't desire it because when he was very little, were very much like, we're not going to be on our phones in front of him or near him. We're not going to be doing our work next to him, which was really difficult.
It's hard, yeah.
We kind of eventually were a bit like, wow, we've shot ourselves in the foot here. This is complex. Trying to run a business and having a child that was like, but we won't do business in front of you. Could you?
Yeah.
Go play over there. Thank you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
It has its pros and it has its cons. Pros are that when I'm with him, I'm very much very intensely with him.
Yeah, present.
He gets 100% of my attention, very present. And then he's like, great, my cup is filled. I am off to go and play independently. See you in an hour. I'm like, cool. Good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then on the other hand, there are the difficulties where we used to, for instance, have a little series of videos that we did for my members club on YouTube called Weekenders, which is where we filmed our weekends, which was perfectly fine when we didn't have a child. Because we were just like, yes, here we are. We're off. You know, this weekend we're going to the countryside to go and look at some lambs. This weekend we're going to London. Oh, here's this thing we're doing. Isn't this nice? But then when we had Rupert, because we don't show his face either, it became a lot more complex to film, but not bother him by the filming and still be present with him. And yet also film this. And so yeah, there are definitely it's definitely an interesting balancing act.
Yeah,
To manage
I'm
it.
sure. What drives you?
I used to think that I suppose it's changed. What used to drive me was the kind of younger teenage version of me who didn't have anything, didn't feel represented. When I first got really ill, I really wanted to see something that involved disabled teenagers. I wanted to feel not alone. I wanted to feel like this has happened before. This is definitely, been done before. I'm not the first person this has happened to. And I wanted it to not be sad. I wanted it to not be, this is the end of the world. Like, even, Little Women, Beth is dead. She's gone. That's it. Every single one of these books, even, was it Pollyanna breaks her back, doesn't she? Heidi. Everyone's gonna
It's tragic. Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, la 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 la, so happy, so great. Boom. Oh no. Terrible injury. Jeez. There's got to be a happy one, hasn't there? It's got to be a good one. I think I remember some well-meaning aunt giving me a book that had this girl who'd got a virus, and then she was in a wheelchair, and oh God, it was the worst book ever. It was like she'd suddenly become disabled, and her crush went on a pity date to the cinema with her, but it was the most awkward thing ever because she was in a wheelchair and his chair was lower than her, so he had to sit in the upright chair. Oh no, but then everyone behind them made a fuss. And her parents had to build an extra room because she couldn't go upstairs in their house anymore, but that caused financial ruin upon their family. And then her parents got divorced because of the stress of having her. And then her younger brother's life was ruined because she existed. And it was just like, oh my gosh, okay, good, glad, feeling so great about myself. So what I really wanted to do was to create content that was just like, hey, joy, it's gonna be okay. Firstly, incredible disabled people have come before us. Incredible LGBTQ plus people have come before us. We have a rich and amazing history. We just don't learn about it very much. Also, life doesn't have to be rubbish. It can be great. It can be fun. It can be beautiful. You're going to have love. You're going to have excitement. You are going to have great challenges that interest you. It's not going to be miserable. And that was kind of the content that was kind of my driving force when I first started creating content. And now it's really cliche, but probably now I'm like, yes, my future drives me. The people who are going to come in the future, it's not so much about little me anymore. I think it's more about the ones who are to come. I think a lot, and I try and focus a lot on trying to help children understand difference. It's kind of a focus in my videos a lot. Is the not the right way, because there isn't necessarily a right way that's set in stone, but helping children understand difference so that when they meet difference, they have a better understanding that we are all just variations of normal. And thus making the path a little bit easier for those who don't fit what society tells us is the norm.
Has having a child now kind of change a little bit of that, not mission, because I think the mission is the same, but it sounds like this new interest in helping maybe people understand children or help people guide children into a deeper an understanding of others.
Yeah, definitely, because I think there's there are so many studies that show that earlier you introduce children to disability, the easier it is for them to accept, for them to sort of embrace and understand, and not then have to, at the age of 10 years old, have to be like, what you said to this person in the playground was wrong, and here is why. I'm going to teach you about disability. But instead, from the very beginning, be like, we're all different. Did you know? Not everybody is the same, and that's totally okay, and also actually quite normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. With kids myself, it's making me think like, okay, yeah, how can we better do that for our children?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's beneficial not only for the children who are disabled or for the children who are different, but also for the children who are completely neurotypical and non-disabled. Because I think if you're never shown something and then suddenly, oh, there's a person in your school who is suddenly a way you've never seen, it can be quite confronting, and it's not going to be their fault if they are saying something that isn't the nicest thing to say, but they're the one who's going to get in trouble for it.
Yeah. What is the most challenging or most challenging misconception or topic that you address through your content?
It's just the idea that we can't know things about ourselves. Like the idea that we need other people to tell us things, whether that be sort of like experts and doctors and whatnot. I think I myself have the experience, and so many of my subscribers do as well, of having to go to doctors and be like, no, I am telling you, I know this is wrong. This is like, I live in this body all day to day. This is not a normal body thing to do. Like, I know I've never lived in another body, and I understand and totally respect you've been to medical school and you've seen lots of bodies, but please just listen to me. This is not normal. Please help. And I think it is so difficult to put yourself in somebody else's body and to understand what someone else's lived experience is like. Even so many people are like, I didn't realize that it is not normal to be in pain every day. I just figured we all were. Like, no, friend. We're not meant to be. Bodies aren't actually meant to be in pain every day. That means something's wrong. Go and talk to your doctor. And then if they're not listening, go and talk to another doctor. So yeah, just the idea that we can know things about ourselves, and yeah, I guess it all goes back to helping people feel heard.
Yeah, I was gonna say it literally, that's the mission, right? And there's so many different ways that can come or manifest itself of being heard. And like you said, that is one thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is, trusting the professionals, right? We've all been taught to trust the professionals, the doctors. Yes, like you said, complete respect for what you do and the profession. But like, please listen to me. I don't feel like I can't go to another doctor that's telling me, oh, this is normal, or oh, it's because, whatever, your period or your cycle or whatever, whatever they're chalking it up to. And it sounds like you had to figure that out on your own throughout life.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a number of things where I've been unfortunately misdiagnosed, but I think the worst one for me was being a teenage girl and having digestive problems, which I had my entire childhood. But then when I became a teenager, having anything wrong with your kind of digestion and stomach, it was immediately like, this is an eating disorder. That's what's wrong. It's clearly that. And I was like, I have been struggling with this forever. I've been trying to get your help, and now you'll only listen, but in the wrong way. like, I'm really asking you, I would like some help with this, but I don't want that help. That's not the help I need.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was I've got some medical trauma back there. Yeah. That I've had to go through some stuff. Yeah, there's still things that I tend to try and share on my channel as much as I can until it hits a trauma point, and then I'm like, oh no, can't talk about that one yet. We'll get there one day.
Oh, really? Are there certain topics that for you are kind of that like evolving? You're like, okay, at some point I know I'm going to talk about this.
Yeah. Some of it's just like, I think I coped with it at the time by putting it into a box on a shelf in my mind. And I'm like, oh, is it worth taking that down off the shelf and opening it up for a video? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, do I need to? Oh, well, no. I guess if it really starts leaking out, then I will. Then I'll go and see a professional for it. But if not, just leave it. I'm going to get the right idea. Yeah, it's definitely, it's a weird experience being a child who goes through medical things, even when things are like very, very helpful. I think one of my earliest memories is actually being held down on an operating theatre table, so I could be put to sleep, so I could have an operation in my ears. But I really remember it, and I must have been like 2, I think.
Wow.
So that would have been the youngest one. But I really sort of remember the feeling and the fear of it, and the people all around me. And obviously, with my adult brain, I can look back and be like, yes, what they were doing was great and for my benefit. And they were probably all saying lovely things that you would say to a toddler in those moments. But the way that my brain remembered it isn't, or the way that my brain experienced it, not necessarily the way my brain remembered it, but the way I experienced it is obviously going to be difficult. And so that's kind of the stuff that I think it is important to talk about on my channel. It just doesn't, I don't necessarily have to share what exactly the thing is. I think it's good for us to have lines of privacy and to say, I can give you a general idea of what's behind my privacy line, but I don't have to tell you what it is. I don't have to share the thing that is. I can, and in some ways, sometimes that can be more inclusive, because if you're struggling with, something like the idea of a chosen family, like we all come to our chosen families for different reasons. And it's a really valued thing, especially within the queer community. And just like, we don't all have to discuss our past upsets that got us to this point of having a beautiful chosen family. We can just celebrate that we have one.
Yeah. And you take your learnings, like your experience, you take that and then turn that into, the message or whatever, or the lesson for people.
Yeah. And I try and put a really positive spin on everything. One thing I really want to do with my channel is to make everything have that positive upside to it, because I don't want people to come to my channel and to feel a heaviness and feel a sadness. So I think there are some things where I'm like, I don't know that I can find the positive spin on this. Then I wouldn't make a video of it, or I wouldn't share it.
Yeah. And have there been things that you just have not shared because you're like you said, it almost goes back to like you not being ready to share it because maybe you're not ready because you yourself are working through trying to make that positive.
Yeah. So, for example, fertility journeys.
Mm.
With the year-long fertility journey that we went on to make my son, and
I love those videos, by the way. I loved it. That was such a great video. The one of you and your wife going through that journey. And when you guys found out that you were pregnant, I cried. I was like, oh my God. Even though I already know the answer, like I already knew it, but just seeing it and, and sharing what you went through.
Yeah, you're like, I guess where this video was going, but still.
Yeah, still,
yeah. So that kind of thing, like we found it that we didn't want to share the downs and the kind of sadness as we went along, because it can feel like fertility journeys, smash you around, and you're just like, it's another sadness after another sadness after another sadness, and you don't want to share your hope because you don't want other people to like get too hopeful for you and then feed into your hope, and you're like, no, please don't be hopeful. I can't cope with it. No.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, yes, once we have the correct good answer, brilliant, then we will share and we will be happy and we will have the joy. So that's the type of thing where we've been like, we're not going to share this until there's a happy ending. Wonderful.
And that's when you decided to make the video, because you said it was a year long, but that video, at least the one that I saw, I mean, it was like a 40-minute video, but it was after a year of you going through that. I don't think I realized it was a whole year, actually, now that I think about it. I mean, I'm sure you had mentioned it, but.
And then with our second pregnancy, it was a 2.5 year fertility journey to get to the point of being like, yes, we've done it. Thank goodness. But within that, we had a loss, and we did create a video at the time of that loss. And I think that was important for us to share, mainly because I was like, I can't not. It became a point of being like, I can't make a video and sit here and be like, yeah, happy about something, and not just be honest about what's going on. So we did that, but otherwise we haven't shared. And then we did the same, like 2.5 years. Yes, here we go. We did it. Woo.
Yeah.
Because again, it just feels so much. It feels so much more us, I guess, to keep those harder bits private. I mean, we don't even tell people in our private lives
that you're going through that. They don't know.
Yeah. When we were conceiving Rupert, we didn't tell anyone except my best friend, because she worked with us. And it would have been impossible not to tell her, because she was in our house. So it was very much like, this is, she has to know. But we didn't tell family, nothing.
Wow. And were you filming for the entire 2.5 years? Were you filming it knowing that at some point, there's a light at the end of the tunnel and you'll be able to share your story?
Yes. And that's kind of what keeps me going. What kept me going was to be like, okay, this is yet another no. Oh, okay. Wow, this sucks still again. Oh, right. But, I'm filming this because it's going to go in a video where there is going to be a happy ending. So here we go. I'm like, this is the sadness. This is the sadness. It's a momentary sadness. Okay. And save it to the folder. And that folder was getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. Like, awkwardly longer. But I was like, it will get better. It will improve. We can do that.
So do you think just the idea that you kind of like, almost like, so your mind is so powerful, right? And it's like the fact that you visualized or knew there will be a future video on this because there is a happy ending. Did that actually help you through the fertility journey itself, like the painful parts of not knowing?
Definitely. I think it definitely helps me. I think it's almost one of those things where if you make a time capsule or a mood board, what are those things called?
Vision board.
Yes, a vision board, and you put down like, this is what I want in the future. This is what I'm going to see. Yes, the future. And then because you're like, even if it's not correct, I know that I will be in the future, and I will look back at this, and I will see this, and I'll be like, yay, I got that right. That was a bit wrong, but that's correct. Yeah. But just the idea of you in the future, I think, can be a powerful tool to move you forwards into the future.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny. It's one of the things I've always said, even in my own life. And what I say, with YouTube, right? It's, bringing it back to YouTube. It's like, I was like, I know YouTube or getting onto YouTube maybe seems foreign or hard, but if it's been in the back of your mind forever, you're going to be so glad a year from now that you did it, because time is going to pass like that. As long as you're still alive, God willing, time is going to pass. So you can look back at this moment and be glad you made this decision, or you can be like, gosh, I wish I would have. I wish I would have. So it's interesting in your case, how you explained it. Like, yeah, it's like time is going to happen. Let's put out good vibes for a good future.
Yeah, sometimes you can feel almost like you're just kind of grinding forwards, and you're even in creating content. You can still be really enthused by something, but you can still be like, oh, yeah, okay, here we go again. Next week, what's the next video? Let's keep going. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And when you look back at it, you're just like, yeah, wow, look at me. Look what I did. Look how many of those I did. Oh, wow, I did really well. Good job, me. Yeah. And then, YouTube gives you that little, your monthly recap. That's what you did this month. And I'm like, thanks. Monthly recap. So kind.
I mean, I can't imagine for you where you said that, back in high school, you just didn't even know if you were going to be alive or make it past, a certain birthday, let alone to now become this incredible influence on people, and just like you said, have such a strong mission and be able to impact so many people. I can't imagine how that feels to go from like, oh wow, I don't even know if I'm going to be alive, to look at me, I'm this YouTube successful person with accolades and millions of people, watching me. That's incredible.
Yeah, I think partly it was just that I kind of lay there in that hospital bed and was just like, absolutely not. I refuse. This is I don't want to end here. No, I want to do something. I want it to have meaning. I want to be, I want to get to travel. I want to get to experience, and I want to speak to other people. I want to have an impact. I refuse. And I think that pulled me through a lot of things. Again, that kind of thinking of the future and being like, I will. I'm very determined. That's my lead characteristic. My parents would definitely say that being determined is my number one character trait.
I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, I see that. So speaking of the future, what is the future that you see for your channel, for your content, for your community, for your family?
Well, in terms of kind of content and I guess content strategy, that kind of thing, I'm about to have more babies. So I'm going to have to think about how to make content that doesn't take so long to make and isn't 45-minute deep dives into things. Because I do not have the time. I do not have the time to be doing that. I'm going to have to probably limit those to once a month and instead be doing a lot more content that is sort of a bit faster to make and I would also like to really pivot to talking more about sort of confidence and helping people to feel that the sense of how to push forwards and help themselves be heard in situations. Because I think it's so easy to just be like, oh yes, go and talk to your doctor about this. Go and stand up to your teacher who said that. Go and ask your parents this. But it's actually a really difficult thing to do. And what are the step-by-steps here? We're going to need some charts. Let's lay this out. What are we saying? What are we meaning? How do we do this? And how do we give ourselves the oomph to do that? And I feel like from a lot of my audience, that's something that would resonate.
Yeah.
Often they're like, yes, Jessica, that's a great idea. I should do that. However, how? Okay, yeah, good point. Just because I am happy to like walk down the street in my huge skirts and bows and go and like get angry at someone who's like refused to put a ramp where I need there to be a ramp, doesn't mean that everyone else is. So making sure that I'm more conscious of that and just helping fill that space.
Well, that sounds like a very natural progression from, well, it's off of the same mission of helping the unheard, right? So now you're giving a voice to them, and you've given a voice to them with your many, many videos and all your content. And now maybe it's transitioning into, okay, a voice, but now a solution.
Yeah, that's lovely. I like that. We'll go with that, yeah.
Yeah, you should do it. Well, Jessica, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for coming here on the show and being so open and being so vulnerable. Congratulations on the new baby. I am so excited for you and your wife, and it was just lovely. I just love hearing more about you. I feel like I could talk your ear off for hours, but I know you've got, your little boy you got to get to. And also a big thank you, Ruth Ann, for being here. She's been with us the whole time, helping with the interview and facilitating it. So thank you, both of you ladies, for being here. And Jessica, where can people find you if they're not familiar with you and your content?
So you can find me on YouTube. You can search Jessica Out of the Closet and I will pop up. You can also fetch my name, which is Jessica Kellgren-Fozard, but that is harder to spell. So Jessica Out of the Closet. You can also find me on Instagram at Jessica Out of the Closet and TikTok as well.
Amazing. I will put all those links in the description below. Jessica, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.